I know my moderator is just about to call me any second. There was no sound. But yes, hello. Thanks for being here in the Sisteration Room. We're on health and wellness tonight. We are looking forward to, as always, with Dr. Witherspoon, a very informative, holistic, if you will, evening. So we're going to get started. First, I want to say hello to my chat. Tall Pumps, my moderator, is in the house. How you doing? Thanks for coming. I know we switched the shows to Wednesday, and Tall Pumps is not available on Wednesday. And I miss you so much on when we come on Wednesday. But next season, we're gonna make sure we keep it on either the Tuesday or the Thursday if it works. We got to do what works for the people, right? But I'm so loving the fact that you're there. I love when I pop on and you just right there. I appreciate you, sis. So we're waiting for Dr. Witherspoon. She will be here. This is one of her favorite places to be, too. So I have to share. I share with the people. So I'm Cookie, your host of the Sisteration Room. That said, I am also a certified master life coach with a niche in entrepreneurship at repurposethinking.com. So at Repurpose Thinking, we help you identify your passions, define your thoughts by repurposing your thinking to align with your self-ascribed purpose. It's mindset preparation for entrepreneurship and life's transformations. So I'm also founder of Woman on Silence, which is a nonprofit organization where we serve to empower our trauma-impacted women with the tools and support to help them regain their sense of self-worth, especially those, it's for men and women, but especially for the women and those that are part of the 50 plus club, which we so proudly represent. And tonight, it all begins here with wellness. As we know, this is the Sisteration Room, and in here is where the conversation happens. And we talk about all kinds of things. I'm going to talk to Dr. Witherspoon tonight while you guys are on with us about, moving into some other areas of alternative care. And so I want to give a shout out, though, to my favorite, and I reserve the right to do that, to my favorite podcast. We got Spiritual Thought Leader. Hopefully she'll be able to pop in tonight. Well, she'll be in, hopefully she'll be able to pop into the audience, into the chat room tonight. I know that Dr. Witherspoon is one of her favorite guests of my show. So hopefully she can make it. And Rebel. Oh, y'all listen, Rebel. That's another one of the Spiritual Thought Leader is my absolute favorite, and Rebel Inc. is one of my favorites. Her and Dr. Dady Priest, but Rebel just made partner. She's one of these are the people from my Twitch family, and Rebel just made partner. So congratulations to you, sis. That's awesome. She's super funny, super authentic. You can't be super authentic, right? You either are or you're not. She's authentic. You go to her show and you definitely have a good time there. And she's always with the cracks. And they play bingo. Like, I don't think anybody really plays the game because we so enjoying what she brings to the table. But she's got it's called Anti-Morning Bangos. And Dr. Dady Priest with Engagement Matters, whom is just definitely another one of my favorite sisters out there. And so you guys tune into one. You can just check out. You can look them up on Instagram. You'll find their information there. And so, good health is, we're on the good health tonight. And I just wanted to say, about good health is a journey, because every time Dr. Witherspoon comes in, she'll bring us good advice and good tips and good preventative things to do and to eat for prevention and for cures, or even to lighten the relief of symptoms. And so, I kind of want to know tonight, but I'm going to do that when she comes on, maybe a little bit later in the show. I want to know who is actually trying some of these things that she suggests, and because they're great. I know I definitely do. So, but we'll get into that. And yeah, so like of the people that were here, from all the times that we've been watching her. So it's a journey, it's, good health is a journey. It's unfortunate that many of us want to get on board. Many of us that want to get on board are having a difficult time getting on board. So just know that it's better to eat to live than to live to eat. It's a journey. Grab an accountability partner and let's embrace this journey together, and let's get the best out of this life. Especially our 50 plus club members, we got less time on the planet than we do behind us. Less time on the planet ahead of us than we do behind us. So let's live it and enjoy it and kind of lubricate those joints and stuff so we can be moving to enjoy it, right? So I'm gonna let's go. Let's go. We got Dr. Witherspoon in the house because I'll go on and on and on. We got Dr. Witherspoon is a board certified doctor of Oriental medicine, licensed acupuncturist, and a clinical nutritionist. She has served the local community with effective holistic practices for the past 28 years. Currently, she's a member of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce's Health Committee. Dr. Witherspoon has lectured throughout the tri-state area, medical staff at hospitals, teachers, students in public schools, WBAI radio guests on such topics as multiple sclerosis recovery, healing Crohn's, preventing breast cancer, prostate protection, endometriosis recovery, autism recovery, and staying healthy in a toxic world. Dr. Witherspoon utilizes a wide variety of natural tools, including biofeedback, functional nutritional protocols, detoxification, homeopathic remedies, constitutional and emergency, and Oriental medicine, acupuncture, Chinese herbal formulas, Qigong, individualized diets and supplements to support her patients in their journey to recover and or maintain their health. Let's welcome to the Sisteration Room via Woman Unsilenced, Dr. Witherspoon.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, beautiful lady. How are you, Dr. Witherspoon?
I'm doing well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing great. Yes, I'm looking forward to tonight. I know let me say hello to my chat. Look at the chat. Hey, Fairly All Day. How you doing, sis? Thanks for coming through. I see Celeste. I see SK8843. Listen, I just praised Spiritual Thought Leaders podcast, and we got the Lion's Den in the house. Thanks for coming through, y'all. I appreciate you being here. And we got Dr. Hey, Layla. Hello, beautiful. That's my program manager who's waiting for somebody to come home, and I probably won't see her again. But God bless her. She's just right there and helping you with the podcast and programming and such. Tall Pumps, my moderator, like I said earlier, is in the house. I'm so happy about that. Y'all already know. So, Dr. Witherspoon, we're gonna get busy because we want to know about the preventative measures that we can take for. I think we're talking about
allergies. Some got allergies today.
Yeah, allergies, and we're going to talk also a little bit about sinusitis. Hopefully, if we get some time, because I think those kind of go hand in hand. I know sometimes I can have a bad bout of sinusitis, and I'll just be on the bed. You know how you get in the bed to get comfortable, girl? I'll be on the bed. I'll be on the bed. So yeah, it'd be great to get some good information about those things. So, and Dr. Witherspoon, also later, I want us to talk about some of the, hopefully we'll have some information and some input from some of the people in the chat to see if they've followed some of your remedies and such since you've been coming on. I think that'll be a good way to follow up and to keep stay in the mix, the interaction. Absolutely. Everybody says hello to you.
I'm glad they're able to show up.
Yes.
A lot of useful information.
Yes, indeed.
And I wanted to speak about allergies because the allergy season is coming in strong. And I get people in my practice. Some people have allergies all year round for many different reasons. Allergies can come from the food you're eating. most people really start suffering during pollen seasons. And because of climate change, our pollen season has expanded a whole month. We have a month more pollen than we used to.
Mm.
And we have more pollen, that a lot more pollen than we used to. Used to be very little pollen in the air. I would say before 1990, hay fever was not a big issue with people. Um, Pollen issues weren't interfering, weren't causing asthma attacks because there was very little pollen in the air. And why was that? Because, and I think I mentioned this before, but I'll just repeat it real quick. In the early 90s, mayors at a conference decided to save money by cutting down female trees. And the female trees have all the berries, have all the berries, the nuts, the fruits. So, of course, a lot of that drops into the street, drops on the sidewalk, and the mayoral administrations called that tree litter. And they felt if they just cut down all these female trees, there'd be no more tree litter. They can save money on a sanitation funds. And they did, but there was a big problem with that. Before they started uprooting and eliminating female trees, there used to be a 50-50 balance between male and female trees. So the males are the beautiful trees, the one that flower and look gorgeous all year round. Of course, those flowers are gone in the winter, but they're the ones that change beautiful colors in the fall and are nice and full in the spring. They're also, the males are also the ones that release all the pollen that's making people crazy. And the reason most people did not have hay fever before 1990, because there was a 50-50 match. So there was enough female trees to capture the pollen from the male trees. That's how nature was working
Right.
until man intervened and said, oh, we don't need these female trees, completely uprooted them now. And this is not just New York, this is thousands of cities around the country. The mayors decided to do this cough saving, to use this cough saving event. But what they didn't realize was that they're now putting their citizens in danger, because now that there weren't enough female trees to capture the pollen, you and I are now breathing in all this tree sperm.
Okay.
What is,
You
and
said we are breathing in the tree sperm.
absolutely. And
All
before
right.
that, there was very little pollen there because there was enough female trees to capture it the way nature intended. It did
So
not.
is that why we're walking around like kind of like loose upstairs in the head?
Well, it causes a lot of illnesses, particularly obviously a lot of respiratory illnesses. And people who already have asthma, pollen seasons, I know some people that actually went to Puerto Rico during the pollen season because they simply couldn't handle it. They didn't want to be on a lot of steroids. So it does affect a lot of people. There's more asthma deaths during the pollen season
Mm,
because after some point, those steroids they're taking stop working.
wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So problematic, and I'm sure so many people end up with sinus problems. We're breathing particles in that were never meant for humans to be breathing in. We're breathing them into our lungs. We're breathing them, obviously into our sinus. And if they take up residency in your sinus, you're going to start having lots of sinus problems. And that's where neti pots and nasal washes at least once a month during during the pollen season, at least keeps your sinus from collecting all this pollen.
How does that nasal wash? Somebody mentioned that to me. How does that nasal wash work?
Well, you can buy a neti pot. You can just everyone can just Google neti pot. Looks like
Mhm.
uh um looks like one of those little pots that the Aladdin used to come out of. The
Hmm.
magical Aladdin that gave your wishes. It looks like one of
Okay.
those.
Aladdin's lamp.
Right. And you just fill it with some water with a little bit of crushed Celtic salt or Himalayan salt, and you
Okay.
literally pour it down your nostrils. and it comes right out your mouth, and it clears that sinus.
How does it do that? Does it dry it up or
And
something?
obviously, no, it flushes it out.
Oh,
So
so it
pour
comes,
it
it not only
up
it
your,
comes out with the drain. You said the water
absolutely.
comes out the other side, so your mucus comes
Because
out
you're
with
pouring
it.
it directly into you're pouring it into your sinus. So the water needs to be warm with a pinch of salt. You pour it into your sinus and it comes out. You cough it right out your mouth. So that's just a really easy nasal flush, and
Okay.
it keeps your sinus clear if you're susceptible to pollen. And many
You
people
know,
who never had pollen issues are
you,
suddenly getting them.
you know I'm having a like a little moment trying to understand how that nasal wash works
You,
because
you're
because the sinus because your mucus is heavier than the water that you're putting in there,
doesn't
right?
matter. That's why you have salt in there. Flushes it out.
Oh, okay. All right. That's
Mhm.
interesting. I think I want to try that because sometimes, and does it open up the membrane?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Actually, generally when people are having sinus issues, their membrane is swollen. So when you're pouring the warm salt water directly into your nasal passages, into your sinus, that swelling goes right back down.
Nice.
Because
Okay.
the salt creates an osmotic event. And
Okay.
so with that salt, it
And
pulls the toxins through the membranes, and the membranes now can go back to normal.
wow. That's good to know. That's good to know. Hey, DJ Jen, I see you pop in here. How you doing? And I think spiritual thought leader came through the front door. Did I see her come through the front door? Or was that tall pump shouting her out? So yeah, I see. When Layla says, "Oh my God, thank you," she was because she definitely. I told her that you were gonna come on, and we were talking about. She definitely has the sinus issue.
Right. But this
Yeah.
is one way
So
she can start clearing it up.
yeah. So that's good. Yeah, Layla. I hope that works for you. I definitely hope that
Right.
works for you.
So that's
Um,
one way.
right. And I know you got many other ways. The trees are always fascinating when you speak about the trees. It always blows my mind.
But it's amazing that and what I found out was that the directors of the like botanical gardens in almost every state warned the mayors that they could cause death, that they would be going to be calling people to get pneumonia and bronchitis. But the mayors were like, well, we're saving money.
Wow. So listen, I want to ask you, you know, I'm definitely pro natural. So, but I want to ask you, are there any potential risk or side effects associated with like, all natural treatments for allergies and sinusitis?
Unless you're allergic to one of the herbs. There's
Okay.
really, I was going to get into that, but it's really good natural antihistamines.
Mm-hmm.
But one or two of them can be allergenic because they're weed themselves. So, but we'll get it so that could cause a problem. But on the whole, the natural stuffs are extremely safe, and unless you have a severe allergy that would lead to an anaphylactic shock against a particular herb, you're not going to have a problem. But most people know what they're allergic to. For example, there's a really good formulation with cordyceps and black seed, not black seed oil, the crushed black seed with cordyceps. It's a really good formula for breathing, for people who are having difficulty breathing. But this particular formula has rosemary in it, which is also fantastic for the sinus and for the lungs. However, a woman I referred, that I recommended it to because she came to me for breathing issues. When she, but I tell everyone, look at all the ingredients. The ingredients are safe unless you have an allergy. And she said, "Oh, I can't take this." And I'm like, "Why?" She said, "I am definitely allergic to rosemary." Who knew?
Wow.
Rosemary is a great seasoning for fish, for veal, for so many foods.
Yeah.
But there's millions of people There's all kinds of allergies. So everyone, no matter, I have a lot of different recommendations, but particularly when it comes to any type of formulation, you know your body best. You always need to take a close look at all the ingredients, just because if you know you have some allergic reactions, you need to make sure that, you're not consuming something that happens to have that particular ingredient that's a problem for you. Yeah,
Mm.
so we were able to find her other natural antihistamines without rosemary. It wasn't a big deal. It was a formula that I saw work for many people, which is why I had recommended it. But I'm glad that I do tell people, and I've always done, you're the final arbiter. You have to look and make sure nothing I'm recommending is going to cause you an allergic reaction.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You can't just take it because it works. It's got to work for
Right.
you.
It's got to work for you. Absolutely.
Exactly. It
Absolutely.
says the grown folks, right?
Well,
Doctor, hear me, doctor. You hear spiritual thought leader. I was referring to you and I called you doctor again. I was about to say Dr. Spiritual Thought Leader. How you doing, sis? Thanks for coming through. I already gave you your major love and your shouts. I appreciate you being here. This is one of your this is somebody that just loves the and appreciates the information that you come in here every single month so faithfully to give. Like she just loves your she loves the fact and appreciates that you're here. And
yes,
she says it all the time. So
well,
thank you,
thank you so
spiritual
much.
thought leader, for being
Yeah.
here, and others in the chat that may not say it to me, but they show up.
Right. Well, you know I'm happy to do this because what I've seen over the 30 years I've been practicing is that unfortunately our grandparents did not pass down a lot of information. And so
Right.
today people are, searching for information.
Mhm.
And you may get some good information on social media on YouTube, but some of it is absolutely not good for you. And
Mm.
I've had people come in having lots of problems from so-called information that was given by particularly some medical doctors. Not to
Yeah.
malign them, medical doctors are doing the best they can. The problem today is many of them have no degree in nutrition, and yet they're selling nutritional products. And there's one in particular I'm thinking about, and he definitely is an excellent medical doctor.
Mhm.
But I saw one where he was recommending high doses of vitamin D, which can make your liver fail.
Wow.
And he was recommending, 30,000, 40,000. And I'm glad I was about to comment, but someone got there first. They wrote a comment saying, my grandfather is in the hospital with vitamin D toxicity because of your recommendations.
And that's overdosing on vitamin D.
Vitamin D. So,
Man, I tell you.
we hear about it all the time, but people need to know that vitamin D can be dangerous, especially for people of color.
Yeah, wow.
Because,
See, this is what makes it so great is that you speak directly to us.
right, especially for
Mhm.
people, because our genetics had been altered um, a thousand years ago to deal with very hot weather. And that's how we got brown, because our body didn't all the vitamin D that our body would make from the sun would kill us. Period.
Wow.
So in the latitude we're in right now,
Mhm.
we don't need sunscreen in this latitude. Now, if you go down to Miami, that's closer to the equator, you need sunscreen because we're not used to that sun. We're not used to being that close. But if you're in on this latitude of New York or Chicago, black people don't need a sunscreen
Okay.
because so it's problematic. What I suggest people do, when they're with their primary, and now doctors are told look for vitamin D deficiency.
And what does that look like?
Well, so for people of color, we should not be below 25. We should be like between 25. Actually, we could go as low as 20, between 20 and 35. maybe 40 at the most.
What,
But
25, 35, 40? What is that number?
units,
Okay.
right? So we don't want more than that. But many doctors, I think the AMA has set a standard that you should be up to 50. Well, there's a problem for people of color to be pushed up to 50. So we have many parts of our body that's still made of cartilage. Like our nose, that's why it moves, still cartilage there.
Mhm.
But what I've seen is people of color who are trying to meet this standard, which is based on people from North Europe. It's based on their genetics, not our genetics.
Right.
What's happening to them is their cartilage is calcifying
Mm.
because it's too much vitamin D. I had a gentleman come in, he was in his 50s, and he had a bone growing out of his finger, which was very painful. And he's like, I'm 52. What's this happening? He had been to a couple of medical doctors who I'm sure, were doing their best with the tools they have. They're great physicians, but they had no clue why it was growing. In the meantime, they were still telling him, oh, you need to have at least 50, you need to have 50 unit levels of vitamin D, which
And this
he
is a
wasn't.
black
He
man.
was taking a lot of vitamin D to get there, not realizing that the vitamin D they're talking about is based on white people from Northern Europe. This has
Mm.
nothing to do with our genetics. And so once I realized how much vitamin D he was taking, which was crazy, and he was already getting symptoms of possible liver failure, I just took him off all vitamin D for 2 months. So I'm like, you can't eat fish, you can't do any vitamin D. I'm like, because you're about to have liver failure, and all that vitamin D is growing an extra bone coming out of your hand.
Oh my gosh.
So once he stopped it, the pain stopped. It stopped growing. Actually, it shrunk a little bit. I don't know if it ever completely went away, but I kept him off all vitamin D for 2 months, and then
Let
he
me
was
ask you about this
just
bone,
like
about the bone growing out the side of his hand. I mean, I don't want to sound like completely ignorant, but the extra vitamin C,
vitamin D.
D, I'm sorry, the extra
Right.
vitamin D, how did it cause a bone to a piece? What happened?
So
I'm
because
confused.
vitamin D mobilizes your calcium, to grow bone. That's one of the things vitamin D does. It mobilizes that calcium. Otherwise, the calcium can be all over the place.
And that
If
makes
you have the
sense.
right amount of vitamin D for your ethnic group, it will keep your bones strong. That's why without vitamin D, you're going to get osteopenia. It's just that of people who have ethnic ancestors from the African continent, we simply do not need as much vitamin D to stay healthy as people who are from Northern Europe.
This is great. This is
And
this is
so
this is
I
great
recommend,
information. A lot of us are like completely at a loss, and we think that taking the vitamin D, oh, we need the vitamin D, we need the vitamin D. And
we
because
do
the
need
doctor
it.
says you need vitamin D, and we know it's
Right,
calcium, and some of us become calcium deficient. I know I had been calcium deficient
right,
when I was carrying my first child.
right.
Yeah, and that was just for a time, so they gave me additional vitamin D, and thereafter I just felt like, oh, I don't want to be vitamin deficient. And I never got any advice or um uh advice about taking it. I know recently when I went in for a yearly, the doctor wanted to put me on vitamin D, and I was like, I think I can just eat something to get the vitamin D. I'm a pass on that, because I didn't want to go too far with it. But you know what I want to do? Say for the people out there with your questions, please ask the questions and put, "Hey, Rebel, look at there! I just happened to glance over. I see you, girl. Girl, we just gave you all the compliments in the congratulations earlier, because Rebel, y'all, is, I mean, I know everybody in this chat knows that Rebel made partner over at Twitch. So that's a huge thing. And this girl is just being her authentic self. So a lesson in that, just be you. And Rebel, I appreciate you so much, and I'm so happy for you. I know that was, I don't even think you tried, to be honest, because when you're just being yourself and you're doing what you want to do, it's things just kind of happen. So I'm happy for you. But
Okay.
so
So,
questions you got. Oh, and I saw
so I
somebody else,
just want to
Sunny
get
Day. Hi, Sunny Day.
back on track and give you. I have some more
I'll put us on
information.
track, Dr. Witherspoon.
Mhm.
I want to pause. I want to pause for a moment.
Okay, that's fine.
I want to let people know that they can ask questions and tall
Well,
pumps. You can put it.
it would be great if they. I don't know if they could write it or whatever, and then let me get through just a little more information,
Well,
and then
I
we can.
think the chat is interacting, so we're stopping and we're pausing and we just going about and the question. But I'm not going to pause to ask the questions. I want to let them know to write the questions in the
Oh yeah,
chat.
that's perfect, and then we can.
Okay.
Okay, great.
And
That'd be awesome.
okay, so you want to get back on track?
Yeah,
Let's
so I
go.
just want to give them a little more information.
Okay, Dr. Witherspoon.
Okay. Um, so everyone knows that, during the season, many people use over-the-counter antihistamines, Zyrtec, Allegra, Claritin. In fact, when I was looking to see how much money Americans spent on those three,
Mm-hmm.
by $4.5 billion a year. That's,
Wow.
yes,
You said million or billion?
4.5 billion.
Wow. I
Billion.
know, because 4 million, I'm like, that's a
No,
little number. Okay.
4.5. That's how millions of people who are suffering through allergies that get worse or start up during the pollen season. The pollen season starts at the end of February and goes like to the second or third week of November. It is long now. It used to be mid-March to mid-October, but because of climate change, it has stretched out an extra month. Aren't we lucky?
Does it get stunted when the weather is cold?
Most people, yes, for most people, when it gets cold, most people are much better just because there's no pollen there. But there's a few people that have year-round allergies. That's a whole nother thing to address. But the bulk of people just have either, in fact, it depends on what they're allergic to. Some people are allergic to the tree pollen, so their worst time is in the spring. Some people are allergic to grass pollen, so their worst time is in the summer. And others are allergic to ragweed pollen that comes out in the fall. That would be me. And so, their worst time is in the fall. But I have people come who are taking Allegra or quercetin, excuse me, or Zyrtec all year round, or definitely all during the pollen season. Here's the problem. It definitely, you don't want to, I don't want people to suffer, but if people take these every day, those over the counter antihistamines can lead you to dementia. In fact, right, right.
Wow.
If you read the insert, it clearly says can cause memory problems. But if you're taking them every single day, you could be setting yourself up for dementia. Now, if you're just taking it once or twice or even 3 times during the month, maybe one day here, one day when it was really high pollen and you just couldn't handle it, you're probably going to be okay. But millions of people take it from the start of the pollen season to the end of the pollen season. And many practitioners believe this is a big part of why we're getting this growing group of people with Alzheimer's and dementia.
Wow.
So that's one thing you want to think about. You definitely don't want to take them every day. And the reason is that they cause memory problems. So histamine, as most people know, is what causes our symptoms. That's why you get an antihistamine. We have these mast cells, and if there's an allergen that you breathe in or you eat or you inhale, and the mast cells start get activated because the body doesn't want that allergen around, it degrades, releases histamine, and the next thing you know, we got hives or we got a runny nose or we're sneezing like crazy, or you're making that funny sound because your throat is itching. So we're
Yeah,
going through all these
I
changes,
won't go
and
there.
exactly, and throat
I
sound. People
know.
know.
Yeah, we do scratches. Hi, Panda Butterfly. How you doing? BTD
Exactly.
Mom, thanks for coming through. Yeah, I mean, they're loving this information, Dr. Witherspoon. This information is, I see a lot of like wows and whats and like really,
Mm.
it's
So
it's a lot of
I
that.
just want them to be careful. I don't have any problem with people taking over the counter. They just need to know that's not something you can take every day if you'd like to avoid being demented.
Yeah, isn't
And
that
also we can, so people who, so you wonder how come some people get through this and they don't have any problems, but millions of people do have problems with the pollen, with the allergies. And this is why. So internally, we have this enzyme called diamine oxidase, or for short, DAO, diamine oxidase. So diamine oxidase is supposed to block histamine release in our bodies. So so it would stop all of these symptoms, these these allergic symptoms that people get. If you have adequate diamine oxidase, if that is strong, you have a lot of it in your cells, then it doesn't matter how much pollen there, you're simply not going to have symptoms. And many people know at least one or two people around them that the pollen doesn't bother them at all. They're just they run every day. They're not taking any over-the-counter antihistamine. They're fine. These people obviously have high levels of DAO in their system.
mm-hmm.
But for the rest of us,
You're so
we
funny.
have we have low levels. I mean, I know I have low levels in the fall because when ragweed hits, if I don't protect myself with certain nutrients that I'm going to mention, I would be scratching my eyes out. But
Wow.
because I know what to take now, these natural supplements, I never have a problem during that time. Every once in a while, I might feel a tiny itch in my eye, and I just take more because what I'm taking is non-toxic, it's safe, and it blocks the histamine reactions in my body.
Wow. Listen, Dr. Woods, how you doing, Ms. BJ727? Thanks for being here first time in the chat. I want to read Sunny Day's question. She's got a question. Is it a question, Sunny? It looks like her son's doctor said his vitamin D was low. And then I have another question here. Her son's doctor said his vitamin D was low. I didn't give him the pills, but I gave him a teaspoon of morning a day.
A
What
teaspoon of
is
what?
it? No, moringa a day. Now his his vitamin D is perfect. Good.
So moringa is one of those herbs that boost vitamin D. So she was right on point. You could have
Good.
given him
Good.
cod
Good.
oil. Cod oil will bring that vitamin D up. And cod oil protects you from allergic reactions to pollen.
So she's asking for any advice on the moringa.
Well, obviously it worked for her son.
Yeah.
So there are many. If you incorporate mushrooms into your diet, mushrooms have a lot of vitamin D. Vitamin D is very protective against allergens. Cod oil, as most people know, have lots of vitamin D and vitamin A, both of which you need to keep your nasal passages from becoming swollen because we're breathing it in.
What's that again? We need for those nasal passages?
Vitamin D and A, and you get both of them in substantial amounts in cod oil. That's why it has stood the test of time. So I take at least 2 or 3 tablets of cod oil during the ragweed season, and then I have no symptoms. Cod oil with vitamin C. So if you increase
Wow.
your vitamin C to 2 to 3,000 milligrams a day, of course you take it with food, both of them, the vitamin C, your your cod oil, you will not have any allergic symptoms.
See, and she says it reversed her son's asthma, but she said, no, but nobody talks about it. Yeah, because we're going to take money away from the pharmaceutical.
Exactly.
And so we don't want to do that, right? Of course we do, but I mean, it's not even about money; it's about health at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It's
It's
about
like
health.
we don't want to stop anybody's hustle, but I know we want to be healthy. So, and you're right, Sunny Day. People don't talk about it, and it's sad. It's really sad.
And,
Um,
and I have to give kudos to that woman, because unfortunately, I've seen parents, and I know they were trying their best, but they were listening. Their kids have had terrible asthma, and the pollen season made it horrible. So they listened to their doctor instead of this woman who obviously did her own research and said, "Oh, I have a different way of getting vitamin D in my son."
right.
But many people give their kids those steroids, and steroids stunt children's growth.
Wow.
So
Miss
they're taking
BJ
a steroid.
727. I see
Yeah, they're
you.
taking a steroid for 9 months out the year. And this particular boy, I felt really sorry for, because so he was, I think, 17 when I met him. He was 5'2".
Mm-hmm.
His mother was 5'10". His
Wow.
father was 6'4". His
Wow.
younger brother was 6'5". But they had given him steroids since he was like 2 years old. Completely stunted his growth.
Mm-mm-mm. Look, Miss BJ 727 says she needed this information when she lived in ATL because she was running and walking daily, and the next thing she knew, she couldn't breathe. But that would be the same thing here too, right, Dr. Witherspoon?
Exactly.
So be careful, regardless to where you are, because Dr. Witherspoon had said earlier in the show about the trees, like across the country,
It's
have
across
been
the country.
the female trees have been cut out, like they've
Right.
been cut down literally, and so that's that's leaving no place for the pollen to go. Is that right?
Exactly, because you still have all those. In fact, they've increased the male trees. So we have double the male trees. We have virtually maybe 10% are female trees. A
Mm-hmm.
90 to 10% ratio is really bad. So that 90% of the trees are releasing all this pollen. There's only 10% of female trees to capture it. So that leaves you and me to capture all the rest.
Right. And she said, what did you call that? What are we breathing in?
We're breathing in
Particles
tree
of
sperm.
tree
Absolutely.
sperm.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Um, let's see. Yeah, ATL is horrible. She said I've been doing, the doctor wanted to have me take three shots 3 times a week. Now that's where I want to go with the shots, Dr. Witherspoon.
Okay.
So can allergy shots be integrated into a holistic treatment?
Absolutely. I
Do
have
they
some
need to
people.
be?
It just depends on where people are at. I've had people. Some of the allergy shots are actually very effective, very effective. So I'll give those doctors that. But they don't
Oh,
generally do it 3 times a week. They generally do it once a week or once every other week. But I have a young man, and he had serious allergies, and it was his medical doctor, who was an allergist, who gave him those shots, and it was a huge difference for him.
and
But once he came to see me, he was much better. But I just switched him to some natural antihistamines, and that seemed to have held him since. So he's been doing fine.
that's awesome. So when you're trying to, do the prevention holistically, how long does it take? I eat healthy, and I, kind of, do my best to stay on point with it. My 80/20. I told y'all about the
Right.
cheesecake.
Yeah.
At juniors, I will have when I feel like it. But anyway, but my 80/20 rule on eating healthy. So things work fast for me. So
Right.
I'm wondering now, how for people that don't eat healthy on a regular basis, how long will it take for the holistic remedy to kick?
Oh, it may not kick at all if they're eating crappy. So because the major part of how we get respiratory issues, whether it's from pollen or something internal, is because so many people have very weak digestive processes, or they have basically a leaky gut. Um, so if you have a leaky gut, you're going to be fostering a lot of allergies. That's where people are getting food allergies, and food allergies make pollen allergies even worse. And because I have, this happens often. People come in, they said, I had a few allergies in my 30s, but once I hit my 40s, more allergies showed up. Why is that? I didn't have these allergies in my 20s. And I said, well, let's look at what you've been eating over these years. And
Right.
because many people are like, I know I'm eating crap. I'm like, then that's why you're having all these issues. you have to stop eating crap. You have to start eating organic foods. You have to be eating a salad every single day. You want to include things that are natural antihistamines. You want to include things like sprouts, vegetable sprouts, and microgreens. I mean, and they give us concentrated nutrition to help repair leaky guts.
Okay, Dr. Witherspoon, I want to speak on the salads, y'all. when she said, when Dr. Witherspoon says eat a salad every day or eat salads every day, she is
Every
talking
day.
about with the greens, the green leafy leaves. Not the iceberg lettuce.
No.
There's no nutritional value in iceberg lettuce. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the arugula and other
Exactly.
mixed greens
Arugula,
like
your romaine, your green, your red lettuce.
the spring mix is.
Right,
If you go in
exactly.
the store and
Those.
you get a spring mix,
Right.
an organic bag of spring mix, you're doing good. You're on point.
Cucumbers.
Grab another a bag of spinach, baby spinach, and just mix that together. And then I want to add to the salads. Actually, I want to subtract from the salads. The salad dressing that most of us, because I used to when I was younger, I am not gonna
Right.
hold you, it's too much. The
Right.
salad dressing has more. Listen, I used to eat I love salad, first of all. I used to eat a salad and say, good. Because, and then after the salad, I was so full, but it was doused in salad dressing, which is,
With generally based on dairy and
yes,
yeah.
all that stuff that causes leaky gut. So
Right.
watch what you put on your salad dressing, put it on the side, dip. Um, what I've gotten to, like, again, I want to go back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show. It's like, let's learn to eat to live as opposed to living to eat. Everything does not have to taste good. We need to be nourished. And that's
Right.
it.
But natural things definitely can be made to taste good.
They
But people
can,
should use more olive oil and
but at the
vinegar.
but at the onset, Dr. Witherspoon, that don't taste good. Not when you down in a whole half a bottle of
Got you.
salad dressing. I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. It don't.
Oh,
It's like there's no taste. But you will become accustomed to it, and your body will thank you.
well,
I
it's
mean,
not just being
energy comes
accustomed.
when you are eating healthy. Like, it's enormous. It's like magic. It really
Well,
is.
actually, it's not that you become accustomed. It's that your body eliminates the fake taste you were having. And some
Okay.
people just want sugar on everything.
Right.
Those people actually aren't tasting anything. You want to
Mm-hmm.
be able to taste savory things with basil and oregano. You want to be able to taste like natural Indian spices, as cardamom and those type of things. These are the things that actually taste delicious. But in the United States, so many people just want more sweet stuff that they don't
Yeah.
realize they're actually not tasting food. They're not tasting the delicious natural tastes that come with all these different amazing spices
Right.
that olive oil and vinegar actually enhance because they're so used to doing things that are sweet. But once they stop, it may take, like you said, at the beginning, it may taste awful because, oh my God, it's not sweet. But then their natural taste buds come back to life.
Exactly. And that's what happens. Okay, so yeah, okay, so I guess you don't get used to it, but that was my layman's terminology. You get used to it, and
Yeah,
so
no, you're absolutely right.
thanks for that part, because it makes a difference. Your body kind of rejects it. It just doesn't want it
Right.
anymore.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I definitely get that. Fairly All Day says she takes a little bit. She takes like a tablespoon of dressing and drops it in her salad and shakes it all up. That's great. I've actually gotten used to. I used to do the Dijon, a little Dijon mustard, and the olive oil and the balsamic vinaigrette. Not vinaigrette, just the vinegar, and I would shake that up. But I don't even do that anymore. Fairly, I just take it now and just pour a little tablespoon. One thing about olive oil, and I love using it, is because it doesn't matter. It's like you're not gonna, you can't use too much. I mean, unless you're drinking a bottle of it. I mean, let's be clear, but you can't use too much. So I just put the olive oil on it, and then I'll pour, drop in some lemon juice and the vinegar, and it just tastes great. I'll put in a little pepper and some of that Mrs. Dash. I like that
Right.
on top of
Absolutely.
it. Yeah, I love salad, so I mean I can eat salad all the time. So, Dr. Witherspoon, can you give us some foods that we should be eating, or not eating, like the dairy. I know that's a lot, and it's, that's not the greatest thing to eat for our
So yeah, dairy's hard if for people who have lots of allergies. And so when someone comes with lots of allergies, dairy is one of the things. Dairy, soy, I ask them to just eliminate those. And other things need to be tested because some people might have a sensitivity to certain foods and other people with allergies don't. So we do a lot of sensitivity testing. I mean,
yeah.
when people come, they know what they're seriously allergic to. So they already know that. But we just test to see what they might be sensitive to. And it doesn't mean they can never eat it. They just want to eat a lot less. So instead of every day, so let's say they have a sensitivity to eggs, even though eggs don't cause them to have hives or anything crazy, but a sensitivity shows up, and I'll be like, okay, you can have an egg like 3 days a week, right? But not every day
Mm.
because the sensitivity will build up. So people are having an egg, even though they love it every single day, then eventually it's going to cause other allergies to get worse. But if they just do it like 3 times a week, and if they can offset that egg, by having your egg with spinach or seaweed. I mean, having eggs with seaweed is just amazing. You can actually make it like a nori roll. Put some avocado on there on the
Mm.
seaweed, because it comes in sheets. You can buy it dried, and you just have to wet it lightly. So you can now roll it. And you add avocado as a layer. You put some scrambled eggs with some spinach and everything else you want, and you have a delicious breakfast. You have an egg, a scrambled egg, seaweed, avocado breakfast. It's delicious.
That sounds
So
so delicious. Oh
yeah,
my
these are kind
gosh.
of things, and kids love to make that. It's really fun if you have kids and they help you make those rolls. Um, you'll just have a really fun, delicious, and nutritious breakfast.
I got a question about some exercises. Are there some exercises that we could do to reduce the pressure of, the congestion?
Well, exercise is definitely really important because exercise
I love
improves
Nori.
your small intestines and helps to repair a leaky gut. If you have a leaky gut, you are going to have allergies. Once
Mm.
that gut is repaired and you're eating a good diet, um, then you're not going to have allergies, or they'll be extremely minimal. Another thing, so any kind of exercise, particularly say women who are menopausal, there's been some really interesting information on postmenopausal women and exercise. Everyone needs to exercise, but every decade, we change.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And the exercises need to change with that because exercise that we could do in our 20s that might last, I used to be, just for fun, I used to be in this African dance troupe. That's a workout.
Girl, that's my favorite dance.
in
What's
my
African
in my
dance?
20s, I could do that.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna still try.
Right. And we would spend like 2 hours. There was a place on Broadway, the 55th Street Dance Studio.
I used
And
to go there.
yep.
It's
And
called Broadway Dance.
right. So they had Afro dance, they had jazz dance, they had ballet dance. So
Right
whatever you
there.
liked. And it was like what, $11 for like 2 hours. It was great.
A
And
full class.
but I mean, in my 20s and early 30s, I could do that for hours. I
That's
can't do that for
amazing.
hours now. I can
We
do it
went to the
less
same
hours.
dancing school. I used to go to Gloria Jackson when I was in Queens, but yeah, I
Yes,
love
I
that
have that.
Broadway dance. I used to take
Yeah,
the African dance class there.
yeah,
That's wild.
yeah. We might have seen each other. What? How many years ago?
Yeah, well, that amount. like that amount of years ago. Fairly All Day wants to know your thoughts on eating according to one's blood type.
Okay. So that's a really interesting book. I read it
Thanks
like
for that
years
good
ago when it
question.
came out.
Mm-hmm.
It has some useful suggestions and recommendations. But
Yes,
here's what.
yes.
But again, that's where people have to just decide for themselves what works for them and what doesn't. So this is a very typical um, a doctor who assumes he has the final say on a lot of information that he actually doesn't know about. So again,
Okay.
some of his recommendations were useful, but then he wants to tell 1 billion Latinos who the majority of them have blood type O that they shouldn't be eating bananas or plantains. Now, really?
Well, you gotta first of all, I think you gotta let us in on how you doing, Miss Riz. Thanks so much to be here for coming in. But Dr. Witherspoon, okay, so when you say type O, I know that Fairly All Day knows about the different blood types and the
Right,
question
right.
she's asking, but I know I don't know about what
Well,
the
I mean,
correlation
I
between the
mean,
blood type.
I don't remember all of it.
Okay. So, but I just wanted to clear that up for other
Right.
people. That's, there is a correlation. I'm guessing that's what you're agreeing to. There is a correlation
There
between
are
blood types.
correlations. There are some correlations.
There's
I'll
some
put it that way.
correlation between blood type and
And foods.
and foods.
Right.
Okay. And so Fairly's question was, what were your thoughts on it?
Right. That's why I'm saying that some of it is not correct. Some of it is useful. So you have to decide for yourself and your ethnicity which suggestions you find useful and which makes no sense.
Hmm.
So he has a lot of useful suggestions in there. But some of it doesn't make any sense. You have Latinos who've been eating plantains for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, and here's a person who's just going to tell you, oh, even though you've been eating this successfully and healthfully for thousands of years, it's not good for you. So, if I were Latino, I'd be like, I'm not following this recommendation.
Right.
But there are other recommendations that are useful. So again, whatever you're looking into, whatever sources that you're pulling information from, you're the final arbiter of whether it makes sense to you or not.
Gotcha.
And just with everything else, if you listen to, there's some very interesting people like Miss Lynette Williams right here, but all over YouTube and Facebook that do give some useful information.
Thank
But then you
you.
have to decide if that useful, inspiring information.
Right.
But then again, each of us have to decide what components of it works best for us, because we're
Okay.
all so individual. We all have individual biochemistry. Just like that woman, I said she's allergic to rosemary. How many of you have used rosemary, for cooking? Millions of us do. And yet she now has to ask people, did you use rosemary to make this? Because she knows she'll go into anaphylactic shock.
Wow.
So, so as I said, so it's a very useful book. It does have some very good points and very good correlations, but there are some that are not good. And that's where you have to take certain things with a grain of salt and pick out what works for you and just leave the other behind.
Wow. You know, I hear you. I hear you on the imperfect, the imperfect part, as far as the
Yeah.
imperfect part of it. And I respect that and I appreciate it. On the other side of that is, or with that is, how much can it hurt you? I mean, unless you are allergic.
Certain things can hurt you because with if you follow your, your ethnic background,
Mm-hmm.
all right, I'll give you a very serious one. So,
Hey, Cassandra.
so all Black men who have Black mothers have 30% less glutathione in their cells than their white counterparts. And how did they find that out? In fact, they found this out at a time they had never, scientists, doctors had never heard of glutathione. It was discovered during World War II. In 1941, going, so I think that was the second year of World War II, about 1 million American soldiers came down with malaria, and about 60,000 died. So the government actually, I mean, for the first time, they were actually like, oh, we can't have all these people come down with malaria. So I think for once they were actually trying to look out for soldiers. And so by 1942, they came up with the first malaria vaccine. And this is what happened. They gave 1,000. Now, most people, I'm sure you all know that in World War II, everything was still divided by race. There were Black platoons and white platoons. And that's how we have the data is so clear, which is good because that's how they started figuring out what happened. So they gave 1,000 soldiers this particular malaria vaccine, um, and every single one of them died in 3 days. All
Wow.
1,000. Yep. They gave
Wow.
they gave the same malaria vaccine to 5,000 white men, and what happened to them was about 80 died. About 1,200 were critically ill, had to be hospitalized, but most of them survived. But about 3,000 were perfectly fine. So they obviously scrapped that vaccine and they reworked it years later. However, in the 50s, a whole bunch of research scientists saw this in the literature and they're like, so how come Black men can't take some little old vaccine? It was clear that this was genetic because not one of them was spared. All of them died in 3 days. So in the 50s, there were many scientists, research groups trying to figure out, and I have to give them credit because they didn't even know what they were looking for. They had not discovered glutathione, which is our master antioxidant, which every cell in our body is required. In fact, glutathione, if you have adequate amounts, that also protects you from all these allergies.
Wow.
So they had to, so they got blood in the 50s from 2,500 young Black men, because the men who died were all between the ages of 18 and 22, because in World War II, there was nothing volunteer, they were all conscripted. So in the 50s, they got, through medical doctors, they got samples of 2,500 young Black men's blood, and they got samples of 2,500 young white men's blood. And they started, it was massive research because, again, they didn't know what they were looking for.
Wow.
So, but what they ultimately found out, that's once they finally stumbled across this new molecule, they didn't know what it was, but they realized during their tests that when this was reduced, people died. So what happened? And they named it glutathione, um, glutathione is made from 3 amino acids. So what they found was that in the blood of every single Black man, they had 70%, excuse me, they had 30% less to the white counterparts. We'll hypothetically say they had 100%. And what they found was when they got this malaria vaccine, it reduced the glutathione in the blood by 30%. So if white people started with 100, they went down to 70. They could survive. They were fine. But
Right.
Black men started at 70.
Hmm.
So when their glutathione went below 50, no survival.
Where do we find this glutathione? I'm sorry, I think I might have missed that.
Glutathione is a compound that every single cell makes. If you're low in glutathione in your liver's going to fail. If your heart glutathione is low, your heart's going to stop. Glutathione is necessary for every cell survival. It is our master antioxidant.
Wow.
And there are great supplements like N-acetylcysteine, which I was going to mention, because N-acetylcysteine is really good against allergies, against all kinds of allergies, food allergies, pollen allergies, because when you take that supplement, your body, your cells immediately grab it and convert it into glutathione.
Wow. Fairly all day said, yes, she says very interesting. She read a study on it.
Yes. Yeah, it was it was fascinating when I found this out. I actually found this out from a white professor who just happened to mention it in our class in passing when I was working on my master's in nutrition back in the 90s. He just happened to mention it. So I stopped him after class. I said, whoa.
Wow.
Where do I find this information? So this is before the internet. So he directed me to the Rutgers Library and where I could find all this information out.
Wow. We've come so far since that. But anyway, that's another
right.
conversation.
But it was amazing. Now there is a bean that can definitely kill Black men because it reduces glutathione dramatically. But interesting, it's not a bean that's in the Black diet. In fact, most Black people hardly ever heard of this bean. I was just really shocked when I went into a health store and they were selling muffins with this bean in it. And so I went to the manager and I said, you can't sell this to Black men. I'm like, some of them are going to die if they eat this. You can't sell this. And that bean is the fava bean. Fava bean, no Africans ever eat fava beans. It's just not in our lexicon. But fava beans will reduce glutathione.
Spell it first, please.
Fava. Fava. So that's why most Black people never heard of it. I never heard about it until I started studying about what happened to these men. And I looked up things that would reduce glutathione, and fava beans was like at the top. Mm-hmm. And then I understood why it wasn't in Black culture. No one eats fava beans. Most Black people never even heard of it. Wow. That's because it is deadly to our men. Now, there's a small group of women who also have 30% less, but most women have at least 90%. So most women are safe. Most Black women are safe. Mm-hmm. But Black men are not safe at all. And that's why Black men tend to have more side effects from medications than their white counterparts because they don't have enough glutathione to process all that. Glutathione is needed for detoxification. And since they have 30% less, if they're overwhelmed with lots of medications that many of them might be on, that's why it's easier for them to get side effects from the medications than their white counterparts. It's not that they don't get side effects, but they don't get as much side effects and they don't get them as quickly as a Black man taking the same type of medications as their white counterpart.
Got you. Okay, I just want to ask you before we wrap up real quick about the thanks so much for I can't to say thank you so much for each and every piece of information. We spend more time with that than moving forward. I did want to ask you about the acupuncture before we got out of here. Hey, spiritual thought leader, still in the house. Good. Botany class. I don't remember. I think Fairly mentioned the botany class. That's what she heard about the fava beans and
awesome. I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad someone class, because I was really shocked that they were just selling these fava bean muffins. I was like, no, you can't sell them to Black men. You'll kill them.
Spiritual thought leader says Hannibal Lecter eats fava beans and Silence of the Lambs.
Right, but he's a white guy, so
Yeah,
it's not going
right.
to
So he's
bother him.
good. He's
It,
good to go.
it's
Okay,
not
so
going to bother
acupuncture.
him.
I want to ask you about acupuncture before we get up out of here. How does that affect sinusitis, and what impact does it have on sinusitis and our allergies?
Well, Ken, there's certainly acupuncture for almost everything, short
Mhm.
of a bullet wound. But but yeah, there's great acupuncture for sinus. There's acupuncture that drains the sinus. But anyone who does acupuncture for sinus, they're also going to be doing some points to repair a leaky gut. You got sinus problems, you got a leaky gut. So you
Gotcha.
have to handle that with specific nutrients. You want to raise glutathione levels. You want to raise glutamine levels. And there's really good formulas today to help repair leaky gut. And of
Mm,
course, you have to clean up your diet
there
because
you
if you're
go.
doing a lot of sugar, that sugar causes massive inflammation in the gut,
There you
and
go.
you're just not going to repair it. I don't care what you take. So,
And
so
there you have it. It's time to eat to live and not live to eat. Dr. Witherspoon, always, always, always a pleasure to have you here with all of this priceless information, just educating our Black community, Black and Brown community. I appreciate you so much, and whomever else is listening. It's just good information all the way around for all of us, especially those that are listening to it.
I would just like to mention
Yes.
too that one thing, and I'm sure people in the community, people who are listening, I'm sure they already know about this. I'm sure you know about this. But one thing people really need to check and make sure that they don't have any mold anywhere around. Mold will cause a whole bunch of allergies. I had a woman who, she'd been in my practice for a long time. I didn't see her all the time because most of the time she's fine. But all of a sudden she started getting bronchitis and all kinds of respiratory issues. And she's a singer, so that was a big problem for her. But normally I could tell her what to do. She'd take it and she'd be fine the next day. Didn't happen this time. It took her much longer to get over it. I thought that was weird, but she did took us like 4 or 5 days versus just one day to correct it. And then 2 months later, it was back. And I wasn't putting it together the second month. It took us longer. It took us almost 9 days to get her back. But then 2 months later, she had it again. I said, wait, do you have some moles in your place? And then she said, oh, yes, but they painted over it. I'm like, are you crazy? I'm like, well, no wonder this is coming back. You know, mold releases very toxic chemicals. I said, at least, so, I had her go through the whole thing, get a HEPA filter in her bedroom. I said, and I told her certain things she could use to remediate that mold while waiting for them to clear it up. But, in the building she was, they didn't want to have to rip open the wall. But anyway, we were able to remediate it because you can tell if you have mold in your pee. There is urinalysis for mold, which I had her do, and sure enough, she had fungus and mold that came out in her pee. She was like, I said, this is why you're chronically getting these respiratory issues. It's messing with your vocal cords.
Wow.
So yeah, so I'm just suggesting that people, if something is occurring over and over, then you need to check your home, your apartment, wherever you live for mold, and you need to do immediate. Actually, if you're in an apartment building, by law, they have to move you to a place generally in the building where there's no mold while they remediate it. That's by law. They can be sued if they don't do something about mold. So
Wow, that's good information. And I had that down as a question. I kind of sidestepped it. But did you have something else? It looked like you wanted to say something else, Dr. Witherspoon.
yeah, just one other thing. So I did want to say that mold and other low levels of DAO that I spoke about. So if you're breathing in things that are toxic to your system, it will lower your internal diamine oxidase, which then will. That's why people end up getting more and more allergies as they age, and they're like, I had just one allergy when I was in my 20s. I had four when I was in my 30s. Now I got a whole bunch. Now I'm on all this medication. That's because their DAO, the nutrients necessary to maintain that DAO, has now been reduced. I mean, you need B6. You definitely need glutathione. You need vitamin C. And that's why I recommend everyone, particularly if you're over 35, you need to be taking a good multi, which will give you a baseline because you need zinc. But you don't want to overdo zinc. Zinc can harm you too. If you're taking excess of 50 milligrams a day, it can cause your blood vessels to burst if you're taking too much. But if you're
Mm,
taking a good multi, the nutritional biochemists who formulated that multi, they know what baseline of nutrients you need to maintain at least some modicum of health. Of course, if you have a specific problem, then you could add more after you've done some research or spoken to a practitioner who knows more about that. But a lot of people are just taking huge amounts of zinc, huge amounts of vitamin D. I have so many people coming in with allergic reactions because they were taking a tablespoon of black seed oil every day. Black seed oil can be very toxic to the liver. That's not something you want to take every day, and you don't want to take large amounts. So, so I'm just concerned. That's why I'm happy to do this because people just have to be, a lot of people are doing their research, but the question is where your source is coming from.
right.
If they're coming from certain YouTube doctors, look up their credentials. There was one doctor giving crazy information, like saying you could take 100,000 units of vitamin D, that will kill your liver for sure. And but I looked up his credentials. He's definitely got his MD. He's board certified. He has no degrees in nutrition, and yet he was saying he was a nutritionist and giving people,
Wow.
and and the information he was giving people was reckless because it could hurt people.
Yeah, the MDs tend to take license, and they reserve the right for a lot of other positions other
Right,
than
and I'm
just being
sure
a
they're
medical
doing a
doctor.
great job as an MD,
Right.
but they
Listen, I
don't
want to say
understand.
to I want to get at some of what the people are saying in the chat. It's very important. I missed a lot, and um, my life journey. Thanks for coming through, BTD mom. I see you, Ronnie. Right? How you doing, bruh? Thanks for coming through. Um, my life journey says thanks so much for the information. She's very grateful, and you're very welcome for sharing you, Dr. Witherspoon. They're thanking me for sharing you with them. But yeah, and Dr. Witherspoon is a very important part of my entire healthy life. So, and not only my entire healthy life, but the people that I love. She is definitely has been impactful in their life. She's actually saved a couple of lives, and that's not me saying that she saved their life. That's not her saying that. That's them giving her credit for saving their lives. And I'm talking about, y'all always know that I mentioned one of my clients, which is my young sis, and with her stage 4 breast cancer. She is, just is 2 years later, she was diagnosed as stage 4. She's cancer free today.
Yeah,
And that's a blessing. That's a
yep,
blessing. That's
that is a blessing.
determination. That's a will to live. That's Dr. Witherspoon's great advice, and so forth and so on. And Miss Riz says something. I want to see if I can find. Layla says her son is having gas all the time, and what can she do to help? But if that takes us off course with the sinusitis and the allergies, let's revisit that at another point. Okay, Dr. Witherspoon, unless you have a quick response for that, because I want
So
to get
he has to
to.
look at his diet and reduce any sugars. Unfortunately today kids are bombarded with advertisements, and
Yeah,
sugar is addictive. Sugar is addictive.
yes, it
So,
is definitely.
so
And kids
I
can
advise
bounce right off
parents
the
try
walls.
not to bring your kids up eating lollipops. At least don't have them be addictive while they're under your control. Because by the time they become 10 or 11 and they're meeting friends, they're going to start tasting this stuff. But if you've raised them in a certain way where they really like the food you're giving them, the salads you're giving them. And I encourage parents, because I do it now. I grow my own sprouts, which only takes 3 days to grow. It's super simple, doesn't take up any time. You get the little sprout kit, you buy some seeds. It only takes 15 minutes to even set it up. And
Yeah.
then you get a ton of wonderful sprouts.
Yeah.
But if you have your kids start to do it, they will be more excited about eating a salad if they grew it. You can grow tomatoes
Mm.
in an apartment now. You can get these wonderful grow boxes, these little growth boxes that you can fit in a corner of a
Mhm.
room. You probably, if it's not by a window, you're going to need a light, but you can grow a whole bunch of food right right in your apartment. If you don't have, a home in the backyard where you can obviously grow food in, you can grow it indoors near a window. And so if kids are involved in just growing a few things, maybe growing some tomatoes and making sprouts, they'll be very excited about eating the food they grew. So it's just,
Yeah.
and it's something that the whole family can do together.
People,
I
yeah,
believe in
people,
family units.
people
So
sell. We generally sell our kids short and talk about what they don't want and what they don't like. There's a way to make a whole bunch of stuff happen.
absolutely.
You just include them, just like Dr. Witherspoon said, and you do it with some love and some excitement and
Yeah.
some woo.
Have
This
some
is what
fun.
we're gonna try. A sense of adventure. That gets kids all the time.
Right.
I moved to California in 2000 with my sons when they were young. It's like, so you guys want to be able to go to the beach in the wintertime in December? I'm from New York all day, native. So you guys think you want to go to the beach, be able to go to the beach in December? I mean, there's ways to talk about stuff, and they'll ask the questions that you don't want them to ask, of course, but and we all move on. Dr. Witherspoon, you have been super, super duper awesome. And I absolutely appreciate you more than you can imagine, and bringing all this great information here to the Sisteration Room at the first of every month for the past, what, 18 months?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely my pleasure. I just want people to have the information.
Yes, yes. So you know what I would love to do, Dr. Witherspoon? We'll talk about it some more
Okay.
offline, but I want us to get into a space where we talk about skin. I don't want wrinkle. And I'm looking at your beautiful skin. It's like, so I want to talk about some skincare, a holistic treatments that we can, apply to our skin and that kind of thing. So, and teeth whitening and just some of that external stuff that will definitely help us internally as well. So
Well,
thank you
yeah.
so much.
Actually, I have a young lady that I may recommend to take my place on that topic because she is an expert on skin. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This sister's doing it, and
Oh,
she
great. Oh,
so
great.
she's in my practice, but she has her own practice as an esthetician, and she is fabulous.
That is awesome. Yeah, we probably if that works out, we can have her on one
Yeah.
of these old days, or maybe we'll put
Absolutely.
her in our 50 club members only section. How about that? That'd be
I don't think
great.
she's in her 50s. I think she's in her late 30s.
Well, she doesn't have to be 50. She's just teaching us.
Right, exactly. Oh, no, but she definitely deals with all ages and all
Yeah,
types of skin.
yeah. As
But
long as she knows, yeah,
yeah,
that's just that's
yeah,
largely
she
that's
does some stuff. So I'm gonna
awesome.
give you her name. She would be, yeah, yeah. I've taken some
Awesome.
clues from some jewels she's dropped on me. So
Great. So we're going to talk about that another time or later on. And I appreciate you once again. YouTube, thanks for following. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys subscribe, and hit that bell so you can know when we'll be coming on with our next episode, which will be next week. And I don't have my calendar in front of me, so I'm not quite sure who that is. I think it's going to be Miss Coleman. She's well, we'll talk about her next week because I haven't even looked at her bio yet. But her son is Layla's friend, so that'll be a great show. And we'll have that coming up. So in the meantime, Dr. Witherspoon and YouTube, we appreciate you. Twitch, I'm getting with you in 1 second. AMC, what is it? A McKee, 1979. How you doing? I'm gonna get with the Twitch scene for a moment. So Dr. Witherspoon and YouTube, I appreciate you. And you guys have a good night, YouTube.
Okay. Thank you for having me. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you, Dr. Witherspoon.